Welcome back. Remember, you're still watching us on Topstar channel 110 and streaming live on our Facebook page, that is PTV2 Zambia. On Friday last week, President Hakainde Hichilema addressed Parliament on the progress made in upholding national values and principles. In the address, the President reaffirmed government's commitment to credible, free, fair elections, urging all electoral stakeholders to embrace peace, tolerance, and democratic values. The head of state further noted the reduction in political violence since 2021, pointing to the recent Chawama by-election as evidence of an improvement in the political environment. Our reporter, our staffer, also at Kafuanga, was at Parliament and now brings us this report.
In his final address to Parliament before the August 13, 2026 general elections, President Hakainde Hichilema has delivered the State of the Nation address on the application of national values and principles. The President began with highlighting the implementation of a free education policy and nationwide sensitization programs aimed at keeping children in school and curbing illicit social issues such as teenage pregnancies and child marriages. He has, however, expressed concern over the rising cases of divorce, human trafficking, and gender-based violence.
To address these social ills, government continues to sensitize traditional leaders and their communities, our communities, across the country. In addition, thousands of teenager girls who dropped out of school, Madam Speaker, and got married, so to say, are now receiving counseling and are being brought back to school.
The President says government is a speech and other cyber-related crimes, credible, free and fair elections, urging electoral players to uphold peace and tolerance. He cited noticeable reduction in political violence, referencing the recent Chawama by-elections.
Madam Speaker, under the UPND New Dawn administration, there has been an unprecedented reduction in political violence and cadreism in our country. Chawama is a good example. As we approach the 2026 general elections on 13th August 2026, we are committed to ensuring free, fair, credible, and peaceful elections. We should all remember, Madam, we therefore implore all as we move towards elections.
The President has further and the differently abled.
To enhance, we amended the Constitution. For what purpose, Madam Speaker? To ensure fair and equitable representation of our people across the country.
President Hichilema has pledged salaries now stand at 1.5 from 1.3 million households, and that over 2.5 million children have returned to school, and that education reforms have led to the over 70% examination pass rate in the 2025 exams. He further adds that government has tackled the challenges in the energy sector by prioritizing investments in electricity production, while also brought to light the economic gains the country has experienced in the last 1 year. Also at Kafuanga, Prime TV News, Lusaka.
Well, thank you so much, Oswald, for that report. Now, joining me in the studio is governance expert, Mr. Wesley Miyanda. Good morning, sir. How are you today?
Good morning, Dominic. I'm good. And yourself? I'm
good. How was your weekend?
It was good, though full of activities. We are running up and down. You know, the current administration actually demands that, you know, we need to work hard. We don't have to do the entertainment. We need to work hard and ensure that we have something that should put food on our table.
Okay.
Yeah, so it was full of activities, and I'm happy that, you know, Monday has started on this serious note where now I'm here to actually do this interview, and I'm happy that you have extended this invitation to me. You know, these are rare opportunities that should not be taken for granted. You know, these are media houses where you spend money to run these institutions. But when you think of people like Mr. Mianda to come and be part of you.
We're actually honored to have you in our set and on our studio and on the program today. Yeah, so without further ado, I would like to ask, Mr. Mianda, you heard the president's speech, his address, at face value. It speaks to progress and commitment. But as a governance expert, how would you objectively describe a presidential speech?
Thank you very much for that question, Dominic. To start with, usually each time the president is addressing the nation, you know, he first wants to run through what, you know, his government has achieved. Mm-hmm. Yeah, he outlined a number of areas. You know, he talked, you know, he spoke to, you know, the social, political and economic issues of this country. And a lot of issues actually came out. And looking at that speech, I should say it was a well-balanced speech. It tackled a number of issues here and there. Because already he talked about this big elephant in the house, 2026 general elections. Mm-hmm. Yeah, he actually talked about the need for us as Zambians to remain peaceful. Mm-hmm. And maybe focus on issue-based politics, not hooliganism, not violence. He cited an example of Chawama, you know, by-elections where a number of politicians actually interacted without necessarily looking at their political affiliation. Mm-hmm. You know, that kind of interaction, that kind of peace that we saw in Chawama, I think should be a good example going forward. Mm-hmm. And that is what actually the president was trying to bring out for us as Zambians to see how we can actually move on, how we can interact, how we can embrace each other, you know, as politicians. And at the same time, you know, the president actually spoke to, you know, to a number of issues where he talked about, you know, the recruitment of teachers, the recruitment of health workers. Now, let me maybe look at the recruitment of teachers. I think he came out with this, you know, understanding that, you know, we need to appreciate the free education policy, which has seen a number of our children going back to school. More than 2 million children have gone to school. And, you know, he also, you know, I spoke to this because looking at the current situation where we seem to have politicians who just want to criticize anything that the government is doing. Mm-hmm. When you look at the free education policy, I think it's something that was criticized from the word go. It was criticized by members of the opposition, where they said, where is this man going to get the money to support this this policy? Yeah, then when it was now actualized, they came up with yet another criticism where they said, no, actually this free education policy has even compromised on the quality of education that we are offering. Okay, so he looked at a number of issues, how this free education policy has really helped our children in schools. Apart from the free education policy, before I even talk about the quality and the passing rate, that of course he appreciated. Mm-hmm. We also have the feeding system, the feeding program in these schools. The government is pushing in a lot of money to ensure that, you know, our children who are at school should be able to at least have something in form of food. This is quite different from what we used to have when we were at school, Dominic. I remember when I started my grade 1 up to grade 7, we used to carry Chibuantu, we used to carry Kandolo, going to school. You know, that was what we used to have at that particular time. Mm-hmm. But this time around, you know, this government is good enough to come up with this feeding program in schools where our children at least have something that they can throw into their bellies to give them strength to actually concentrate on their studies. So I spoke to that. Then looking at this criticism coming from members of the opposition where they're saying the quality of education that we are offering because of free education policy actually is poor. Yeah, the president spoke to the passing rate, especially this year where a lot of our children actually did well in grade 4. This actually shows that free education policy actually is yielding positive results, and it needs to be supported. And this has also helped, children that were just, home in their communities to try and, get back to education, get back to school so that they continue with education. Education is an equalizer. Yeah, education, when it's a long-term kind of investment, especially for our parents who are spending money on this. But then looking at this investment, I think it gives good results once the child is educated. Why? Because that is an inheritance that cannot be grabbed from the child. Once she's educated, then she'll move on and she can even find employment. At the same time, they will not, a child who has been to school will not actually have that inferiority complex where they will feel, out of place each time they meet others. So meaning it actually gives that kind of exposure.
But don't you think the criticism on the quality education is a positive criticism?
It is,
especially when you're looking at the teacher to pupil ratio. I will tell you one thing, in the community where I come from in Palawana, because of this free education, the teacher to pupil ratio is very high, and the CDF itself is not able to actually suffice and build for us what we need. We're actually, with the PTA, we're actually building 1x3 classroom block. I feel that criticism is very important, but what's your take on that one?
In a way, every criticism actually is important. Looking at, if you look at it at a positive part of it. When you talk about, this pupil to teacher ratio, I think it's something that this government has been trying by all means to address. How is it doing? One, of course, free education policy has come with its own challenges. Let's talk about these 2-point-something million children that have gone back to school. They will need some space in the classrooms where they need to learn, freely. But then they go to a school, where maybe there are about 100, in each class. So that is a challenge, of course, because one teacher cannot manage to go around to actually have a one-to-one kind of arrangement with a pupil. Why? Because the number is just too big. During the time we were going to school, Dominic, believe you me, we were up to 40 children in the class, 40, 45. Those were the numbers. Meaning, teachers were finding it easy to go around to give extra attention to each pupil to ensure that if at all some of those are small, are slow learners, they'll be able to catch up. Why? Because the teacher will make sure that he monitors the performance of this particular child. But as things stand now, I think free education policy, of course, has come with its own challenges, and that is one of the challenges where you have a very big number of children in one class. But now, what government is actually trying to do is to see how this CDF thing can be utilized and expand those classroom blocks to actually ensure that more actual pupils are actually accommodated. Secondly, that's why there is this massive recruitment of teachers. We need more teachers now. Now that more children have gone back to school, meaning we need more teachers actually to ensure that we refine on the safe delivery when it comes to actually the pupil teacher ratio. I think this is a criticism that has yielded results, of course, because there's this actually good response coming from the government in as far as the utilization of CDF is concerned. Now, I don't want to do much on the CDF because this should be a topic for another day. Why? Because it has its own challenges, it has its own issues. But then, having said that, also the president also spoke to issues to do with the girl child. The girl child needs to be supported to ensure that they have everything that they need, and a number of issues actually were actually spoken to on the girl child to ensure that we continue actually sensitizing the girl child. Let the girl child be at school. Now the other thing is the free education policy. Let me maybe look at it from the positive part of it. It has helped, it has helped pupils to go back to school. You know what? In this compound, in these communities, children who actually don't go to school find themselves in a number of activities, in a number of illicit activities such as prostitution, beer drinking, and others, maybe drug-related, substances. They tend to abuse those. So at the end of the day, they get spoiled, and those are the people that actually, those are the children that qualify to be street kids. At the end of the day, we call them junkies. Why? Because they've really nothing to do. But this free education policy has opened up, and we see no reason why parents should fail to just send their children to school, because they are not spending anything apart from uniforms, maybe apart from books. So meaning to say, even the parents themselves should be held accountable. They should be responsible parents to ensure that they encourage their children to go to school, because there's free education from grades 1 up to 12.
Mr. Mianda, the president highlighted a reduction in political violence since 2021. From your assessment, is this improvement institutional and sustainable, or probably it is personality driven and therefore fragile ahead of the elections? What's your take?
Thank you very much. I still have history with me. I still have that picture of the election that we had before 2021 or pre-2021, where we could see pangas around, we could see stones around, we could see people that were being harassed because they were putting on some political regalia. And because of that, there was no freedom of movement, no freedom of expression, and some political parties were not even allowed, especially those that were in the opposition, were not even allowed to go to some areas like Copper Belt and others to go and campaign. So we never had that freedom of assembly, and we never had that freedom of expression at that time, and this violence was actually the talk of the day. But then, look, from the time UPND came into power, I'm sure the president is on record, where he came out in the open and said, you are free to put on any regalia of your choice. Meaning there's nothing like, being harassed because I put on, a red or maroon, something maroon. I'm a free person. You find that the people who belong to PF, they will put on their PF regalia. People who belong to Socialist Party, they are in their own regalia. There's nothing like, starting harassing somebody because, they belong to another political party. This is what is happening. Meaning, people are free now to do their politics, without, being intimidated. Okay? Now, when we talk about violence, I think it's something that was very, very bad during that time, before UPND came into power. We saw it for ourselves.
But is Chawama a good example?
Chawama, yes, Chawama is a good example, and the other areas like Tambo, we had another by-election in Tambo. We never had any report, of violence. We had another by-election, mayoral by-election in Kasama. Okay, but there I was trying to get in touch with the same people who were in the field, your colleagues, the Libya guys. On the part of the ZAMBIA as the public media, they would say, no, Mr. Mianda, here it's quiet. But on the other part, we came across, some issues where even, members of a named, opposition were found with stones and other pangas. So meaning to say, we still have people with that kind of mentality. When we talk about, campaign, they feel it is time to fight. I think this is what the president spoke to. He said, no, when you need to compete on ideas. You don't need actually to compete because you can fight somebody, you can throw your stones properly. I think we need to actually change that narrative and ensure that we do issue-based politics as we respect and love one another. Because after all, this is just politics that comes and goes. It will still remain, it will still leave us as Zambians.
We did get some reports of some people that felt that they were violated actually in Chawama. We saw a political figure, president for, I think, Mau Sampa, posting on his social media that he was attacked and there was some violence. end. So I'm trying to ask and find out, was Chawama the perfect example that the president should point at for the reduction of violence?
To me, as a governance expert and human rights advocate, I was on the ground, and I was working with our friends, in OP. Yeah. So we have all the information. Such pieces of information, Dominic. Sometimes I don't want to waste my time living in such. Why? I'm looking at who is this person actually advocating for that? Who is this person actually bringing out that kind of allegation? Okay. So with that in mind, I understand. It is coming from this person. But how do I analyze it? How do I believe it? So I find it a challenge looking at the kind of person that has actually, carried that information and trying to disseminate it, wrongly. Already, you talk about Honorable Mayusam. Is the same one who announced that there was an extra a polling station that was created by what? Those issues are in court, and I wouldn't love to do much on that because that was a lie. That could not be substantiated, and we see actually him manifesting the long arm of the law. And now, when you have such information where you say no, somebody was harassed, I take them as such. But generally, the environment, the political environment, was very conducive, and everyone was free. We could even see members from opposition interacting with members from the ruling. So that kind of interaction, I think, qualifies Chawama as a practical example where we had this peaceful campaign, peaceful, by-election that, that we never experienced any form of serious injuries here and there. Yeah, those were just rumors, and we cannot actually sit down and start, feasting on rumors. No.
Okay, thank you so much. So the president further also apologized for the prolonged load shedding that we Zambians endured. In governance terms, how important is an apology, and does an apology without accountability and timelines truly restore public trust?
Yeah, in my preamble, I think I mentioned here that usually when the president is addressing the nation, he wants to really, look at what his government has achieved, and at the same time, he does not only dwell on that. He also looks at the negative part of it, where his government has been limping, and with that in mind, he spoke to the load shedding, the energy sector, where he actually bemoaned and he ended up apologizing as the head of state. I think it's not his first time to apologize. Remember last time when he was addressing the nation again, he gave an apology over the load shedding thing. Now he really, as a head of state, he really understands the negative, the negative impact of this long hour load shedding, where a number of companies actually were limping in terms of operation, because look, those that were running barber shops, salons, those were metal fabricators, or they depend on power. So when there is load shedding, it means that they don't have activities, and because they don't have activities, then they are not producing. Because they don't produce, then they are not selling. So meaning, even economically, these are the people that are supposed to contribute to the growth of the economy by maybe paying tax. But how do they do it? Because they are limping this side. Why? Because there is no power. So the president looked at that one and said, this has been a very tough time for every Zambian. And that's the reason why he apologized. Now, after apologizing, before you come in, Dominic, because at the end of the day, you just cut my time and say, Mr. Mianda, his time up. After apologizing, of course, he went on and gave the hope to the people of Zambia. Look, the current situation, where I'm coming from, we are not experiencing this load shedding anymore. And you know what people are saying? They are saying, no, because we are going towards elections. Now, let's look at the interventions that the government actually is putting, in as far as the energy sector is concerned. I think we have seen a lot of projects we have seen a lot of memorandum of understanding that have been signed between government and other investors who are coming to the country to see how we can actually produce close to 1,000, megawatts. Okay, apart from that, we've seen a number of solar projects that have been established. ZAMBIA is one of them, and other areas, meaning to say the government actually is busy trying to look at other sources of energy to ensure that load shedding comes to an end. Now, when people say we have this, we have power and no load shedding is no longer there because we are going towards elections, we are saying sometimes let's be positive-minded. Let's be positive-minded. Let's hope that this issue of having power because we are going towards election should actually not lead us to where now we are going to believe it. So now that we are done with the election, so load shedding is back. I think if that's the situation, then we'll actually start blaming the government. We'll start blaming UPND and say, why UPND, you are taking us for a ride? Why do you have to actually end load shedding because you want our vote? But once we vote for you and you have won the elections of 2026, then no load shedding comes back. I think Zambians will have to actually rise, will have to speak out and say that kind of situation actually we cannot condone it. Why? Because that is taking people for granted. So all we are saying is this load shedding, which is no more, will continue even after the general elections, because you cannot underestimate the importance of power, Dominic. Power is needed even here. We are actually into the studio because we are using power. Once you don't have this, then I don't think you can run this institution.
So, Mr. Mianda, you said we were given hope and an apology. But what would that apology come with? Or what benefit does that apology have for my brothers who stayed in Galingalinga, Awene John, who had a barbershop and the barbershop closed and they lost money? What benefit does that apology give to our sisters who are probably in Chawama and their salon closed because there was no power? What benefit does this apology come with for our uncle who's a welder and whose business went down because of this load shedding? Don't you think government should intervene with a certain incentive to help boost, not just an apology?
Dominic, an apology, in other words, is a turning point. Okay, an apology is a turning point where somebody looks at something as a wrong thing, but then, by apologizing, they are simply trying to tell the other party that they will not actually go back to...
But others have lost business.
Okay.
Others have had their shops closed.
Yes.
Others cannot even go back to where they were because they even used their profit.
Okay, let me maybe delve into that, on a serious note. Dominic, I don't think it would be normal for any well-meaning government to wake up in the morning and bring load shedding without valid reasons. Let's look at this reality, this true picture of what brought load shedding. I remember very well, and Zambians would agree with me, that we had this long drought. Okay, long drought, and some of us were actually privileged even to travel to Kariba Dam to see the water levels there. Okay, but that time I think I went with the Lusaka DC, Madam Rosa Zulu, and other people. We were about 20 or so in number. We traveled there. We really wanted to see what was happening. So we found the town, and we've only remained with 1.5 meters, which is now producing maybe about 120 megawatts. 120 megawatts is the one that is feeding the national grid. So when we analyzed that and we saw how the water levels were down, we came to understand how it has really impacted, how it has really caused that kind of load shedding.
You were at the site.
I was at the site, and we had the privilege of talking to the engineers over the issue of exporting power. So, but then we are talking about producing 120 megawatts, but out of that you are also talking of exporting. No, there's there's what we may call interconnector, between countries or amongst countries, the African countries, where they have a common, arrangement where they need to actually support one another. For example, in Congo DR, Zambia, Botswana, where they have this common way of trying to support, where there's some kind of deficit, the deficit, from the other country. Okay, the other country to come in and and bring up that. So that interconnector is an agreement. It cannot be broken. It's an agreement, and it actually has to go on. Now, on the other hand, I want to tell you that ZESCO has been actually running on a very, it has been in a trying moment where, it has been spending more, but looking at the profit, that hasn't been enough to sustain the operations. So in this case, this arrangement of exporting power actually enables ZESCO as as a utility company to actually run the affairs. If they don't actually export power, then ZESCO would dwindle, ZESCO will collapse. So it cannot stand on its own without actually exporting. So that's the reason why this exporting, this power export actually has been going on. Of course, people have been observing. Now, the unfortunate part of it, Dominic, is that these people that were in the previous regime, they really understand why the nitty-gritty, within that, power issue.
But they're not the only ones who've been complaining. They're not the only ones.
I'm saying this because they speak louder than any other, and yet they know what is contained there. And those of us that have tried to actually analyze these issues as governance experts have come to understand that sometimes you don't need to continue politicizing over something that is real. Because power is a reality. You don't need to actually blow the whistle, but at the end of the day, people don't see what the results. Now, let me maybe come back to your question, to your concern, that what hope is the Baba man going to have because the president has apologized? Okay, what benefit? Hope actually is that after apologizing over this matter, I've said there are so many interventions that the government is trying to put in place to ensure that we don't have load shedding anymore.
Are there any interventions to help those that fail in business? That was the question.
Now, looking at the past, looking at those that failed, looking at that those that ran at a loss, I would simply say that apology does not actually mean that the government should now start coming up with compensation of some kind.
So there's no compensation.
There's no compensation there. I don't think, maybe the president mentioned it when I was off my mind, but as far as I know, it was just an apology with assurance that actually government is not sitting back watching that power this load shedding should continue. I think there are so many interventions that the government is trying to put in place to ensure that load shedding is no more. I think that's the kind of benefit that we need to look forward to.
Okay.
Yes.
So finally, Mr. Mianda, we have now had several State of the Nation addresses on national values and principles over the years. From your observation, have these addresses translated into measurable behavioral change in public institutions?
That's a crucial question, Dominic. Yeah, that's a crucial question, Dominic. I think it's one thing that I've been actually speaking to several times. Yeah, we really appreciate the fact that we have the president who can actually come out with all those issues, and it's unfortunate that once those issues are brought out, they need to actually translate into benefits down there. The same thing happens now. The president spoke to this, where he talked about interest rates, banks and so on and so forth. Where we also talked about the kwacha, which is ever appreciated. But then the kwacha is appreciating, but the price of essential commodity is still actually is still actually high. Now, so he was trying to say, okay, if we have this, if we have our currency which is appreciating, then we must be able to see the results there. So what does that mean? It means that once the president comes out with all those issues, there must be a way these issues can be translated into benefit Zambians. Mm-hmm. But have we seen that? To answer your question, Dominic, I want to be very objective on this matter. There has been less implementation of these policies that the head of state has been actually speaking to, and this has been going on, and I'm on record actually trying to analyze each individual, especially in those that are in government, those that are appointed by the president, to see how they are trying to actually help the president, translate whatever policies that are being formulated there, so that they come into reality. So we don't have implementers, in other words. To answer your question, we don't have implementers, Dominic, and this has been going on for a long time, and some of us actually have even ended up actually blaming the people, the members of parliament, the ministers. We are telling them they are underperforming, and I'm on record. The other time I even issued a statement to that effect. I said, this is the right time, as we go towards elections, this is the right time for the people of Zambia to start assessing these leaders. Mm-hmm. How have they performed? Mm-hmm. Have they performed to our expectations? If they have not performed to our expectations, and they are going back to constituencies now, mm-hmm. they want to be voted as members of parliament, are we sure that once we vote for them they will change? They will never change. Mm-hmm. So I've been actually advocating for that, to say, okay, members of the public, let's see how we can put these friends of ours on the scale. Mm. And if at all we realize that these have rejected us from the time we voted for them, it's time for us to reject them as well. Mm-hmm. It's time for us to use our vote to reject them and say, let's actually involve somebody else. Let's try this other person. Mm-hmm. And this is what we need to see as Zambians going forward, as we talk about the elections of 2026. There's a lot that needs to be done on the part of people, that are voting, because we are the kingmakers. Mm-hmm. And you cannot, you are going through, mm-hmm. they will only come to realize when they talk of campaigns. And this is the time that now we're going to see them going back to constituencies. And classroom, there is no classroom. Why? Because somebody to initiate that program has not been there. Mm-hmm. So, and yet we have this money in form of CDF, which is not being utilized fully. And this is where we have a challenge. Okay. The money is there, everything is put in place, but people to implement on the ground are not there. So our Zambian people are not benefiting from all these policies because we don't seem to have implementers on the ground.
Okay, anyway, thank you so much, Mr. Wesley Mianda. Thank you for your time. Dear viewers, we have, of course, a jam-packed show going up forward. We were discussing with Mr. Mianda and looking at the presidential speech that the president gave at the national address, where he was addressing national values and national principles. Thank you for your time, Mr. Mianda.
You're welcome. Please, I'm happy at least to be invited. Let's hope we'll have more of such discussions going forward, so that at least members of the public will be able to actually learn one thing or two.
It's an honor. Yes. Dear viewers, there you have it. We'll take a short break. After the break, we'll be back with more. Stay tuned.
That's the life we know. From the fields to the table, every bite it shows. Primarily me, the taste of home. Primarily me, the taste of home. Primarily me, the taste of home. Mama in the kitchen, we never eat alone. Primarily me, the taste of home.
Pure, proudly Zambian. The taste of home.
What do we stand for? We stand for possibility, for the belief that every tomorrow begins with a choice made today. We stand for growth, for curiosity that pushes boundaries, for knowledge that prepares you not just to adapt, but to lead. We stand for community, for minds that don't just think, but connect, for hands that don't just build, but uplift. We stand for experiences that shape you, for friendships that anchor you, for courage that carries you beyond this place. Here you become more than a student. You become a maker of solutions, a believer in dreams, a contributor to something greater than yourself. This is where purpose meets possibility. This is where futures are built. Charles Brook Bassar University, where you stand for what matters.
Kodi muli ndi decoder ya Top Star? Ngati muli nayo, onererani kanema ku channel yatsopano ya Prime TV2 Zambia pa channel 110 kuti mumvetsere ku nkhani zotchakuka mwatsatanetsatane. Izi ndi nkhani zochitika ku madera amene mukhala ndi kwina. Mogwira ntchito pamodzi ndi akatswiri pa nkhani zotola ndi kulemba nkhani, tidzakupatsirani nkhani zomveka bwino komanso zogwira mtima zitangochitika. Prime TV2 Zambia, nyumba yanu ya nkhani zongochitika kumene.
Welcome back, and thank you for staying with us. We now turn our attention to the state of Zambia's economy, an issue that affects every household, every business, and every dream. Now, Zambia's annual inflation rate has dropped to a single digit of 9.4% in January 2026, down from 11.2% in December 2025. This decline has been attributed to lower food and non-food prices, improved maize supply, and a stronger kwacha. So now the central bank projects a further slowdown, targeting an inflation range of 6 to 8% in early 2026. But also, what do these numbers really mean for the ordinary Zambian? To help us unpack this, I'm joined by Jones Sambaombe, a financial expert and advisor with over 19 years experience in the financial services industry. Good morning, Mr. Sambaombe, and welcome to our show.
Good morning, Rhoda. Good morning, viewers. Thanks for having me.
All right, now let's begin at the very foundation. In the simplest terms possible, what is inflation and why should an ordinary marketeer, bus driver, or teacher care about it?
Wow, great question. You know, for starters, when you look at the term inflation, it sounds technical for someone who is selling tomatoes in Soweto market. But inflation, it is just the rate at which the price of goods and services go up. It doesn't mean that if the inflation rate is going down from 11.2% to 9.4%, the prices of goods and services, they don't reduce overnight. It's more like you are driving a car at 80 kilometers per hour and then suddenly you reduce your speed to 70%. That doesn't mean that the car stops moving. The car is moving, so it is just the rate at which the prices are going up. So for a person who is selling tomatoes and other commodities in Soweto market, it means they now have the purchasing power. Their kwacha is gaining some value. It is a point where they'll feel the operating costs as well as other costs for their businesses eventually will come down because of that fundamental.
Okay. Now, another question is inflation really just an office conversation for economists and policymakers, or is it something people are already feeling daily without realizing it?
Good. You know, if you are living in Zambia, you must understand the country that you are living in, the fundamentals. Why have we arrived at this rate of inflation? We need to understand our country that we are living in. Our country is dependent on copper. 70% of our export earnings come from copper. So once we receive those earnings from copper, those earnings in form of dollars, they are capital inflows in our economy. We receive the dollar. So the dollar pushes up our reserves, foreign reserves. So once our foreign reserves are up there, they stabilize the kwacha. You see the kwacha gaining some strength. So once the kwacha gains some strength, you see that the prices of commodities and services will come down. Why? Because the kwacha is stabilizing. So once the kwacha is stabilizing, then it influences the inflation rate, which is the purchasing power, to come down to a single digit. I am aware that the target band is 6 to 8% this year. It is something very ambitious, but it is possible to be achieved. So once you start feeling that value in your kwacha, and then you see some spending in the economy, because no economy can run without spending. We need money. Your spending is someone's income, just like the way debt is. Your debt is someone's asset. So for an economy to flow nicely, someone must spend money for someone to earn.
Now, we're told inflation is falling and that the economy is stabilizing, yet on the ground, many Zambians still say meal, transport, rentals and basic goods remain expensive. Why is there such a disconnect between the statistics and the lived reality?
Tough question. Tough question indeed. But let me try to unpack this. For context, like I said, you understand the lived reality that you are in. There are two economies here we are talking about. We are talking about the economy on the paper and the economy for the lived reality. So depending on where you are sitting, you hear some people complain that we can't feel, we still feel squeezed. But policymakers will tell you that, no, we've done this and that. Think of it as a patient who is in ICU and then they have started recovering. Why am I saying so? Look at where we're coming from. We are coming from COVID-19, where we saw Zambia default on its debt in 2020. That wasn't good for investors. Then after COVID, we saw some debt distress. The debt mountain was going up here and there. Do you know what that does? That really doesn't motivate investors to bring their money in Zambia to invest, because they know that you are powerless. Anyone with bad debt, you are highly indebted, you become powerless. So from those fundamentals, and then we have seen in the last 4 years, the UPND government trying so hard to restructure the debt. We are talking about now the debt levels, most of the debts, more than 90% of the debt has been restructured. That is a very good positive trend for the investors. After restructuring the debt, we've seen some bumper harvest in agriculture coming from drought.
Maybe for people that are not conversant with debt restructuring, what exactly do you mean by debt restructuring?
Good. So in simple terms, for instance, you have a debt of 20,000 kwacha. You need to pay back to the person that you owe that money to. Then you go to them that I don't have this money to pay you this month because I've seen my sources of income, they can't support this debt. So please help me pay this debt in 3 months instead of paying it in 1 month. So give me some breathing space. I'll pay 25,000 kwacha in 3 months.
Okay.
Yes, in that way. So debt restructuring is just a breathing space. They haven't forgiven you for your sins, which is debt.
Okay.
You will still pay back. So if there's that breathing space, it means that you now have some savings that you can channel to other sectors of the economy. This is a situation that we've seen in Zambia. But here, we also have seen IMF really approving our extended credit facility, State 8, which was just completed recently, and saw a disbursement of about 190 million coming into our economy. Do you know what that does? That also stabilizes the kwacha because we are receiving more dollars. But now here is the gist. These fundamentals put in place, they don't translate into household income overnight. The economy does well on paper in statistics, but for it to translate into household income, there is a lot of work to be done. So for someone who is out there thinking that this can happen overnight, no, it can't. We've sorted out the IMF issue, quite all right, but that IMF issue must also continue at the micro level, at the household level. So there is a lot of work to be done. Yes, the economy feels like it is biting, but the good part is that we still have an opportunity to quickly translate the policies that are being done there into the household income so that a person out there can still feel the value of kwacha.
So now, at what point should citizens expect these positive indicators to translate into relief at the market, the fuel pump, and of course the household budget?
All things being equal, if we continue to add value to our copper that we produce, not sending raw copper as it is, we must be able to differentiate between digging copper and production, extraction and production. We add value, we create employment. We add value to the copper, we create permanent jobs. We add value to the copper, we bring in foreign exchange earnings. But this takes about 6 to 12 months according to the research. If we don't follow what I've outlined here, if you don't push the manufacturing sector to ensure that it is getting the output that is expected, because the manufacturing sector also supports the mining sector. If we don't have fiscal discipline, how are we controlling our spending, being in an election year? If we don't put in policies that ensures that the physical space that we achieve is sustainable, if we don't put in mechanisms to ensure that we still achieve just sustainability, we'll still go back to where we are coming from. So these fundamentals must be consistent. We must see policy consistency in everything that we are doing. So it takes a bit of time, 6 to 12 months, but again, we must continue driving, not relenting that since we've retracted date, since we now have a bumper harvest, now let's relax. So there is no relaxing in here.
Okay. Now, of course, some critics argue that macroeconomic improvements benefit governments and investors first, while ordinary citizens wait much longer. When you look at this, is that a fair assessment in Zambia's case?
Wow. I mean, I always ask this question as well. When we see the copper prices going up on the London Metal Exchange, we know that now our copper will bring us more dollars. But the question that we need to ask ourselves is that, who owns this economy? Quite all right, we've got challenges that we face in terms of financial capital. That's why we bring in investors to bring their money so that they can help us with the technology, they can help us with the financial capital. But this must benefit both the investors and the Zambian people. In fact, the Zambian people must be the first interest because we are the owners of the natural resources that we have. But for us to see this gap closing, once policies are made, we as Zambians must also make accountable our policymakers to see where we are going. Like we've seen the introduction of the local content policy, where Zambians have been given an opportunity to do business with the mining sector. Not just mining sector. Because again, if we concentrate so much on mining sector, that will be a concentration risk. Suppose the copper prices go down, what happens? We still go back. So in this case, again, for us to maintain and create more jobs, we must also ensure that we modernize our agriculture. Who is doing agriculture? Are we still doing agriculture with the hoe? The world has moved. Are we still depending on rain-fed agriculture? The world has moved, because if we depend so much on the rain-fed agriculture, we're going to have some shocks, from climate shocks, I may call them.
Yeah.
We've seen that. We've seen the drought. So now, what should we do now for us not to go back in reverse to see what happened, because we've also seen the negative impacts of the drought.
Yeah.
We must ensure that we are formulating, reforming consistent policies that favor the Zambian SMEs, that favor an ordinary Zambian citizen who is depending on one source of income.
Now, from an independent economic perspective, how would you rate the efforts made by the UPND government since taking office, especially considering the debt crisis that they inherited?
Well, there are areas that have managed it so well. When you talk of the debt itself, they have managed to stabilize the economy, but it does not end at stabilization. Once you stabilize the economy, you must ensure that there is now accelerated growth that must happen. And as they do it, they still have some challenges. Challenges like price volatility, external shocks, climate shocks, geopolitical tensions, and looking at the fact that we are in an election year, that also puts pressure when it comes to fiscal spending. How are we spending the money? So in other areas, to stabilize the economy, they have performed so well, despite the challenges, and we still have some opportunities, being a land-linked country and a population with youth majority. It is an opportunity for us to ensure that we propel and speed up productivity, so that each and every Zambian citizen becomes inclusive of Zambian economy.
Okay. Now, what specific strides or policy decisions stand out to you as genuinely stabilizing the economy, as opposed to short-term optics?
Great question. That's why every time I'm faced with such kind of a question, you don't just single out one policy measure that has been invoked. For me, there are so many factors. Let me just mention a few. If you talk about de-dollarization, whereby you use kwacha to do domestic transactions, not using kwacha to dollar, dollar to dollar, that also stabilizes our kwacha. The local content policy, we just need to ensure that we monitor the policy and check how effective it is on the ground. If I'm given an opportunity to supply in the mines, not only in the mines, but we must also look at sectors like manufacturing as well as logistics. That also helps. So Zambians first when it comes to do business in the mines. Look at the policies like the social investment sector, where we focus on ensuring that cash for work is working perfectly. That also helps the households that are squeezed, including the CDF. But we must ensure that the money is being used for intended purposes, and all the ordinary Zambians are benefiting from CDF as well as for cash for work.
Many of us Zambians are being told to be patient. Now, from an economics standpoint, is patience a reasonable expectation? Or maybe there are urgent interventions government should already be implementing to cushion vulnerable households?
Great question. Imagine you have a patient in ICU and they tell you that this patient is in a critical condition but is stabilizing. What are you supposed to do at that point? Are you supposed to be impatient? You listen to what the doctor is telling you, that okay, there is some stabilization, then what? Again, if you become impatient, yes, it's normal for a human being, and then what? Because at the end of the day, you also need to be solution oriented and making sure that we are really putting our leaders to account for what they are doing. Yes, we need to see patience, the level of patience in the ordinary citizens, because it is just a responsibility. But you don't be patient for too long. We must keep asking, like, what is happening, and then the policymakers must also offer clear guidance of where we are going. Like what we've seen, you know, the government conducting some town halls through the Bank of Zambia, advising people and telling them that we've made this decision because of this and that. Like that, there is that reduction in anxiety because there is clarity. So this question still goes to the policymakers. How often are you ensuring that you are explaining in plain language of what is happening in the economy? Because jargons don't help. A person who is doing business in Soweto, a person who is running a salon in Mpulungu or Shangombo must understand what is happening in the economy.
So now, realistically speaking, how do you project Zambia's economy in the next 5 years?
Wow. All things being equal, to ensure that we put all the fundamentals in place to ensure that we maintain and reduce the deficit to GDP ratio. What I mean is that how are we ensuring that the money that we are spending are within the budget? To ensure that we achieve fiscal consolidation. What I mean by fiscal consolidation is, are we spending within our means? To ensure that we really invoke some governance and, governance as well as measures to combat corruption. Because sometimes you can be doing so well in achieving macro stability, but when the bucket is leaking through governance as well as corruption, then you are doing nothing. So all things being equal, if we continue on this trajectory, then I should see the economy, the GDP growing by 8 to 10% after 5 years. But that GDP again, it must not end there. It must translate to a household. Household income must also be aligned with the GDP growth. What is the point of growing the GDP if the income households are not growing? The household income must also grow through productivity to ensure that we are also going digital in our offering our services to the public out there. Because the world keeps evolving. What are we doing about technology? What are we doing to ensure that we put and bring everyone to be part and parcel of this inclusive growth?
Okay. With that said, what sectors, if properly supported, could deliver jobs, lower costs of living, and of course real income growth for young people and small businesses?
Great question, Rhoda. There are so many sectors that can support our mining industry in Zambia, mining being the backbone, the engine of this economy. Manufacturing, it's a sector, if there is production in the economy, of late, manufacturing has been really siding with the urban areas because that's where services are. But I believe if we add value to our copper, that is also supporting its production through manufacturing, that will create more jobs in the economy. Not forgetting about agriculture. Agriculture, we are talking about food security. If we modernize it, we bring in irrigation system, we bring in cheaper farming inputs by providing affordable credit services to the farmers out there, then that will also create jobs. We lower the cost of borrowing, like what you recently saw, where the Bank of Zambia reduced the interest rate, the monetary policy rate. That also lowers the cost of borrowing. If the cost of borrowing is lowered, it means that you and I are going to have access to cheaper credit. Once we borrow the money and then we bring that money in the economy, then there is spending in the economy. An SME out there will ramp up their production. That will bring jobs as well as growth to the GDP.
Now, finally, what practical steps must be taken by government, the private sector, and financial institutions to ensure that ordinary Zambians actually feel the benefits of these economic gains?
Great question again. We need to see a situation whereby if the central bank reduces the interest rate, they must monitor the financial institutions, because that must also trickle down. They must monitor, they must ensure that the commercial banks reduce the rates as well, so that the ordinary SMEs benefit from the reduced rates. So there should be collaboration, there should be partnerships in the economy between the central bank as well as the banks and other financial institutions. When we move that way, you see that fruits will just germinate from somewhere. Not forgetting financial inclusion, financial literacy, because what happens sometimes is that you find a situation whereby the economy is doing well, but people don't know how to spend money. So people must also be taught on how to manage their cash flows. We need to see a situation where the financial inclusion rate moves beyond 69%. We need to see a situation whereby the financial literacy rate moves above 23%. Then you will know that there is a national movement, there is a national policy on financial literacy that will really benefit and ensure that people are spending money wisely.
Well, thank you so much, Mr. Sambombe, for coming through and for giving us your time and also helping us make sense of the economy.
Thank you very much for having me. I do appreciate it.
All right, so we do continue with our program. We now take a short break. We'll be back on the other side. Just stay tuned.
Bushe mwalikwata Top Star Decoder. Bushe mwalishiwa kutila kutimwa tamba Prime TV2 Zambia pa channel 110 nga chakutila mlefu okumfwa amadiashi ayalekanalekana okufuma kunchende ishapusana. Bakanyekanye mukumipekanisisha amadiashi konse kuntumletu mfuila maliba abaiteanya inshita yonse kumulabasa wenu wa Prime TV2. Prime TV2 omulabasa wenu kumadiashi nembira nsuma mumishi yenu.
Early in the morning, fire on the stove, love in a pie, that's the life we know. From the fields to the table, every bite it shows. Primarily me, the taste of home. Primarily me, the taste of home. Primarily me, the taste of home. Mama in the kitchen, we never eat alone. Primarily me, the taste of home.
Prime Meal, pure, proudly Zambian, the taste of home.
What do we stand for? We stand for possibility, for the belief that every tomorrow begins with a choice made today. We stand for growth, for curiosity that pushes boundaries, for knowledge that prepares you not just to adapt, but to lead. We stand for community, for minds that don't just think, but connect, for hands that don't just build, but uplift. We stand for experiences that shape you, for friendships that anchor you, for courage that carries you beyond this place. Here you become more than a student. You become a maker of solutions, a believer in dreams, a contributor to something greater than yourself. This is where purpose meets possibility. This is where futures are built. Charles Brook Bassar University, where you stand for what matters. What do we stand for? We stand for possibility, for the belief that every tomorrow begins with a choice made today. We stand for growth, for curiosity that pushes boundaries, for knowledge that prepares you not just to adapt, but to lead. We stand for community, for minds that don't just think, but connect, for hands that don't just build, but uplift. We stand for experiences that shape you, for friendships that anchor you, for courage that carries you beyond this place. Here you become more than a student. You become a maker of solutions, a believer in dreams, a contributor to something greater than yourself. This is where purpose meets possibility. This is where futures are built. Charles Brook Bassar University, where you stand for what matters.
Early in the morning, fire on the stove, love in a pie, that's the life we know. From the fields to the table, every bite it shows. Primarily me, the taste of home. Primarily me, the taste of home. Primarily me, the taste of home. Mama in the kitchen, we never eat alone. Primarily me, the taste of home.
Prime Mill Meal, pure, proudly Zambian, the taste of home.
Early in the morning, fire on the stove, love in a pie, that's the life we know. From the fields to the table, every bite it shows. Primarily me, the taste of home. Primarily me, the taste of home. Primarily me, the taste of home. Mama in the kitchen, we never eat alone. Primarily me, the taste of home.
Prime Mill Meal, pure, proudly Zambian, the taste of home.
Henna muligisi idekoda ya Topstar amwebere magani atugwa munchiri agasimpe amumasena mo mukala ambunga bahimu wezelela twambo bahyo mega abahimulimo twamwetela magani muhyogo yonse hajihi ana majaja wa Prime TV2 channel 110 ninganda ile tamagani mbwabele. Henna muligisi idekoda ya Topstar amwebere magani atugwa munchiri agasimpe amumasena mo mukala ambunga bahimu wezelela twambo bahyo mega abahimulimo twamwetela magani muhyogo yonse hajihi ana majaja wa Prime TV2 channel 110 ninganda ile tamagani mbwabele. Henna mulijisi idekoda ya Topstar amwebele magani atugwa munchidi agasimpe amumasena momukala ambunga abahimu wezelela twambo bahyo mega abahimulimo twamwetela magani muhyogo yonse hajihi ana majaja wa Prime TV2 channel 110 ninganda ile tamagani mbwabele. Henna mulijisi idekoda ya Topstar amwebele magani atugwa munchidi agasimpe amumasena momukala ambunga abahimu wezelela twambo bahyo mega abahimulimo twamwetela magani muhyogo yonse hajihi ana majaja wa Prime TV2 channel 110 ninganda ile tamagani mbwabele.
Welcome back. You are still watching the Sunrise Breakfast Show right here on PTV2 Zambia and streaming live on our Facebook page and YouTube channel. Now to sports, let's hand over it to Jeremiah, who is going to run us through the world of sport. Take us through in the field.
Good morning.
Good morning, Tim.
How are you?
I'm fine.
How was your weekend?
My weekend was amazing. I don't know about you.
All right. Where did you stop judo?
That was like in 2013.
Why?
Because I've grown old. I needed to focus on other things.
All right, so we have so much that is going on. And of course, we remember that we did have a team that went to Namibia for the beach volleyball. Unfortunately, Zambia didn't do well. But obviously, the two pairs came second. They won silver, as you can actually see them. And of course, those are some of the greatest things that happened. Lesotho managed to win it. It was amazing to see what really transpired, and they're doing it for the first time, so basically it's a good thing for Zambia and absolutely amazing. Should be recommended, especially that they performed up to expectations. Moving on, we had basketball. It was amazing to have this great basketball that was sponsored by of course it was a very one it was called the ZRA Smart Invoice Basketball Tournament. So Smart Invoice, they were talking about how to pay tax and the Smart Invoice and a lot of things about ZRA and just understanding the latest or the greatest things about ZRA. And of course, they were giving back to the community. They were having fun for 3 days, starting on Friday. It was amazing. And at the end of the day, it was 80,000 kwacha on the line for the ladies and the gentlemen. So they managed to win it. As you know that Matero Magic, the Tamanga boys managed to win it. They're dominating and they're really doing great. And they managed to beat Suns in the finals. And they won 80,000 kwacha. So Suns being the runners-up, they got 50,000 kwacha. And the third managed to get 30,000 kwacha. It was amazing for them to win this money. And especially that the league is not done yet. And basically just getting this money for 3 days. You play for 3 days, you get 80,000 kwacha. It's going to help a lot in terms of how you're going to do it, especially if Matero Magic is going to get into the Basketball Africa League qualifiers. That's BAO, like they call it. This money is going to help them really going forward and planning and all that, because it's expensive to get into the Africa Bar League or BAO League qualifiers. It's always expensive. And then, of course, the Queens deserves to get the crown, and they got the crown. They managed to win 80,000 kwacha as well, beating Buffaloes, who were very excellent. They played very well, but of course they managed to get 50,000 Buffaloes. And the runners-up, or the third team, got 30,000 kwacha. And of course, we did have the MVP, who is Priscilla Mayuka managed to get the 5,000 kwacha for the females MBA. She is really fantastic. She is great. She's a multi-talented. This is a person that used to play tennis, but then she stopped. I don't know, for some reasons. She loved basketball more, and she was outstanding, very, very fantastic, and she managed to do it. So those are some of the results, 81, and these are some of the results that came through from the men's finals. It was tightly contested. And I think kudos to Suns. I think Suns are doing very well. And you know, one thing is, first of all, this is where the coaches comes in. And when we're talking about Cuthbert, Kondwela and Tembo, is amazing when it comes to really basketball, because he started coaching on the Pacers, on the Honeys at the age of 24. So he's been in basketball for the longest period of time. And when he created this team away from on the Pacers and on the Honeys, he created two basketball teams in basketball, Kings and Queens, and the Queens have been really outstanding. This is the third year running, and they're really dominating. They've dominated for the 3 years that they've been that after formation. I think they've been really great, and they managed to win, beating Buffaloes, who has been really great also. Buffaloes, I think they've picked up the momentum, and they're beating them for the second time in the finals. Last year in the finals, they were beaten by the same Queens, and this time around Buffaloes are beaten. They thwarted, and one thing is the fatigue, because they played a lot of games at the same time, at the very shortest period of time, because they played these games that they played probably at the longest period of time. So it's different, and now it was amazing to see how the coaches are going to really take the advantage of the greatest players that they have, the best players that they have, to make sure that they tap into it, and of course they do what they have to do. Basket Queens, they are the Queens. They managed to win it, and amazing for them. And the crowd was really amazing. It was electrifying. It was full to the brim. For the 3 days that happened, it was really packed, and the basketball world came together. They really supported the teams. They supported the cause. And remember that the gate takings will be taken to ZBL, Zambia Basketball Youth League, and you know, let's see how these youths are going to really go, because it's a future. That's a future. That's our future, and we need to have so many of those bushers and the same great guys that have been really playing basketball for the longest period of time, to just make sure that at least they have what it takes for them to have it smooth and getting into what it's supposed to be. So let's get to the Premier League. Of course, those are some of the results that came through on Saturday. It was amazing to see teams winning, and Nkana, they lost. They were beaten by Cow Warriors, and Cow Warriors were happy to win this particular game. It was amazing to see that. And obviously so many other teams that managed to win, as you can see. And of course on Sunday, Abena Milambo, Might and Wanderers beating Zesco United. And remember that Zesco and Power Dynamos are coming from continental football. But for Power Dynamos, I think they haven't really lost it in the domestic league. They're doing it, and they managed to beat Napsa Stars 3-1. But Zesco United losing to Might and Wanderers is not looking good. After winning against Zanaco and finding themselves into, you know, Absa Cup, the last 7 Absa Cup, unfortunately for Might and Wanderers, Avena Milambo, it was really packed as well, and they managed to win. And that is National Division 1. First games that was played on Saturday, and some of the results that came through from Saturday games, and now the standings for Premier League, and that's exactly what is happening. Red Arrows, really, they've gone back on top, but they've got one more game played more than Power Dynamos. Power Dynamos second, 1 point difference. Might and Wanderers have done well. They've moved up. Nkana still doing it. But obviously Nkwazi not doing very well at this moment, so they need to pull up their socks, otherwise they'll get into National Division 1. And that is for National Division 1. Of course, the table, that's the standings, that's how it's looking like at the moment. And probably we see the top 4 will qualify to the Premier League, and the bottom 4 will be demoted to Provincial Division 1. So they have to really start pushing. They have to work. This is the second half of the season. They've just really played some few games. And those are some of the results. Sparta managed to win, and I'm sure my guys from Unchwala have been given this particular you know, results, and this is a present for them as they are celebrating in Chwala. They will be happy to know that they beat Kafua Celtics in Chipata, and I'm sure that those boys are not coming back yet. They have to celebrate in Chwala. Anyways, coming to the Copper Queens, unfortunately things didn't work out like we anticipated. Of course, they drew against Zimbabwe, so these two are tied at the top with 4 points. But Zambia has got better goal difference because they scored 3 against Botswana, and against Eswatini, Zimbabwe scored 2. So, but the two teams obviously they have to win their last games. Obviously, but Zambia has to beat Eswatini by a bigger margin for them to stand a chance of qualifying to the next round, which is the semi-finals of this particular tournament. But then Zimbabwe also will be looking forward to beating Botswana. If they do, they will have the same points, but of course, goal difference comes in. And the better team that is going to be the second runners-up will qualify again with the 3 teams that will qualify from different groups that we have. We've got 3 groups. 3 top teams will qualify to the semi-finals, and 1 best runner-up will qualify as the best winner or the best loser will qualify into the semi-final, making it 4 teams that are going to get to the last 4 and eventually get to the last 2, and the winner will get in. Zambia is the defending champion. Now, I want to talk about what FARS has done, really. Those are the scoreline that came through. But I want to talk about what Zambia has done. They've really taken these 3 have gone to the national team, and they in South Africa as we speak. These are assistants. But when you talk about the female, Enala, she was picked at one point. She was picked as a assistant coach. But when Nora came, she refused. She said she doesn't want her. So she was rejected, and she never went there. But FARS, I don't know, whatever they did, they roped in this lady, Enala, and they picked her. She was part of the technical advisors at the female team that was participating in WAFCON. So these are the conflict that they're bringing. These are problems that they're bringing. I don't know the reasons why they're doing this, but bringing people at the tournament is a very bad situation that happens. I think if they wanted Enala to be part of this team, or if they wanted these people to be part of this team, what they should have done before they left COSAFA, they should have been there. And I'm only hoping that, Enala, despite the fact that she knows better and she's got more credentials or more papers than the coach that is there now, standing in coach, the assistant, Charles, I'm only hoping that she's not going to take over, or she's not going to impose herself as the first coach. And these are some of the situation of Zambia, what they're doing, really. And looking at the Copper Queens, I think they haven't played well, despite winning and beating Botswana 3-0. When I watched this particular game, and I've been watching this game so many times, we didn't participate, we didn't perform up to expectations. Even when we look at Zimbabwe game, we didn't play very well. And I think the team is really in 6s and 7s, and they have to really work hard for them to show off and play that this is really the defending champions, and they're playing very well. And this is a team that has qualified to the Africa Cup of Nations as compared to other teams that have qualified. South Africa, Malawi, despite losing to South Africa and then coming through and winning by 8-0 in their second game. It was amazing for Malawi to do that and score more goals, and they played very well. And this is what we need to see with Zambia. I think the performance was not really good for Zambia, but anyways, we'll see what happens. And they're playing their last game tomorrow. So we'll come back on Wednesday and give you the results of what will come through from here, and how the teams are going to pair, and which teams are going to qualify from these 2 groups, the first group and second group, because we'll be having obviously the other teams will be playing on Wednesday. So probably by Friday we'll know the teams that are going to play in the quarterfinal or in the semi-finals, and the 4 teams that are going to be part of the semi-finals. That is in COSAFA. Anyways, moving on, Kings Kangwa scored a beautiful goal, and his team drew 1-0. It was amazing to see Kings Kangwa coming back and scoring goals. This is a beautiful thing that is happening for Zambia, and we only hope that they will continue being in the same form. It's unfortunate that when it comes to national team duties, these guys, they didn't perform, and immediately they left the Africa Cup of Nations. Kings Kangwa and Lamek Banda went on to score, and also Patson Daka scored. You can imagine they failed to score there. Yes, Patson Daka scored 1 goal in 3 games that they played. Zambia only scored the goal, which was unfortunate. But anyways, let's see how things are just going to be if they will continue on this form that they have. So this is all we had for you in as far as sports is concerned. Thank you very much.
All right, thank you so much for that update, Jeremiah. And just like that, we've wrapped up today's edition of the Sunrise Breakfast Show. We brought you highlights from the presidential address to Parliament by President Hakainde Hichilema, along with interviews and experts' analysis breaking down what it means for our economy and the nation at large. On behalf of my colleagues Rhoda and Dominic and the entire production team, thank you for joining us this morning. Catch you next time. Bye.
For Central America,